Before we begin, let's close our eyes for a moment, take a deep breath, and chant Om. Inhale. Om. Open our eyes. Namaste, everyone, and a very warm welcome to Life Management Yoga Center's Global Yoga Fans online platform. We're here to celebrate 25 years of Life Management Yoga Center in Hong Kong, known as LMYC Hong Kong, a non-profit organization. Apart from regular yoga classes, it offers teachers training courses, which is accredited with the internationally acclaimed Yoga Alliance USA and Ayush Ministry of India. LMYC Hong Kong is affiliated to the Prime Minister Award-winning the Yoga Institute in Mumbai, chaired by the very respectable Dr. Hansaji Jayadeva Yogendra. I am Sabina, and I have completed my yoga training at the Yoga Institute in Santa Cruz under late Dr. Jayadev and Dr. Hansaji. I have also conducted teachers training courses as well as different yoga classes here at LMYC since 10 years now. So in this yoga journey, I have come across so many spiritual souls, and today we are so lucky to have a conversation with none other than Swamini ji, the head of Chinmaya Mission Hong Kong since the last 22 years. She's a psychologist by profession and was born in South Africa and raised in Australia and now currently resides in Hong Kong. She travels around the world to share the knowledge of the Vedanta. She also has a podcast called Thinking About It, on where she shares and preaches her teachings about the mission's motto. Her charismatic nature, gentle demeanor, and her beautiful smile draws everyone of all ages towards her. Children, adults, everyone. Swamini ji, you are most welcome to be on tonight's eloquent speaker. As much as I know from your biodata, you have told a lot of stories to children. And tonight we'd like to listen to your story. Thank you for coming with us.
Thank you. It's an honor to be here.
So we'd like to ask you a few questions. First, we understand that you were born in South Africa and moved to Australia at the age of 12. So how did you grow as a child? And what was your personality like? Like, were you shy or naughty at home or school? And can you share some of your personality, how you were as a child?
I think I was a little bit more reserved, but outspoken at the same time. I think I didn't speak too much, but when I had something to say, I wasn't scared to say it. I would say that was my personality even as a child.
Okay.
Thoughtful. I was always intrigued by the bigger questions, purpose, meaning, and so tended to be a lot in my own world, thinking about those things. But yeah, other than that, pretty much your normal childhood, I would say. Friends, school, yeah.
Were you naughty at home at all?
I don't think so. You know, it's actually quite hard to remember childhood. I don't think so. I think when we were in South Africa, we weren't very well off financially. And so we played a lot outdoors. We climbed trees and a lot of these games which are more physical. I think a lot of energy just went in those games and being
Okay.
physically outdoors. I don't think there was much need for mischief as per se. But now that
Right.
you mention, we did climb roofs and we did jump around on other people's houses' roofs. So yeah.
Okay. So, what kind of hobbies did you have and interests in school?
Um, Not a lot actually. Probably more around people. I loved cooking.
Okay.
From a very young age, did take a lot of interest in cooking. And then, as I mentioned, we had a lot of chores that we had to take. So I don't know if there was that much free time, but swimming was also another thing that took up a lot of our time, and games in the pool with friends and my siblings. So yeah, cooking and swimming, you can say, would be my hobbies.
Okay.
Mm.
Cooking and swimming. Okay. That's nice. And what would you say was your favorite subject in school?
I actually really didn't enjoy school in South Africa. So South Africa, we had the apartheid system was still on. I'm not sure
Okay.
if you're familiar with apartheid. So Indians went to Indian schools,
Oh,
white went
okay.
to white schools, or black went to black schools. And so apartheid was legal at that point in time when I was
Right.
growing up in South Africa. It was before Nelson Mandela was released from prison. And so there was this incredible sense of suppression of the blacks and Indians. And so
Okay.
it was very much about white supremacy
All
at that
right.
point in time in South Africa. And it was very evident even in the schooling system because Afrikaans, the state language at that time, was compulsory, and that used to really anger me that I had to learn this language, which was the language of the oppressors, basically. And the system was, because we were an Indian school and it wasn't a white school and it wasn't prestigious. Teachers were probably very frustrated also at that point in time. I mean, I think this as an adult, but as a child, you don't understand all of this, and it was just not a very fun, conducive place to be. And so I think while we were in South Africa and part of the schooling system, I think I spent more time staring out of the window than actually listening to any of the teachers.
Okay.
I only really started enjoying the education process once we moved to Australia. And then
Right.
suddenly it was like this whole different world where learning was something that was a wonderful opportunity, and it had so
Right.
much, there was so much you could do. Whereas in South Africa, it was really very memorizing and regurgitating what you learned. So I really didn't enjoy it in South Africa.
Right. Okay. Interesting.
Mm.
And were you part of any sports or like extra activities at all?
The swimming
Okay.
was the sports.
Okay.
Yeah, and then like I said, we played outdoors. We climbed trees. We ran around on the streets. We played all sorts of games, sports games outdoors. Yeah, but not like I said, South Africa was a different world. We didn't have the facilities of sports the way we used to now.
Right. It's changed a lot since
South
then.
Africa has changed,
Yes.
yeah,
Yeah. A
but
lot.
yeah, we didn't. Yeah, so there wasn't any sports group you could belong to. Not
Right.
not not at the income level we were at that point in time.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, quite very interesting to know. I wouldn't have imagined it to be like that, for
Yeah.
your age. Um,
I think it was very much a part of the journey that made me who I am. I mean, I think living in an environment like that really made me feel to think about the value of human life, the value of equality, the value of having opportunities, the value of, like each person's talents. And
yes.
yeah.
Something we take for granted now, right? We take opportunity for granted, but
Yeah.
it's actually also it's a privilege to have it. Yes.
Yeah. It's a blessing. Yeah.
Yes.
So, but difficulties make us who we are, and I'm grateful even for those.
Sure. Okay, Swamini ji. So what made you choose psychology as a major? You did say that you were a very thoughtful person as a child, and you kind of like went in your own thoughts. So
Mm.
is that one of the reasons which made you
Very
pick
much, very
psychology?
much, very much one of the reasons. So even as a very young child, I remember asking my parents, "Do you know why you were born?" Because I was wondering why I was born. And I had asked this question to a lot of adults as a kid, and nobody really, so maybe they did give me answers, but I wasn't really satisfied. I didn't yet quite figure out why was I born. Why were any of us born? That used to be the question. And so I think part of the psychology journey was to understand maybe the working of our mind, but definitely the working of our mind, but also this hope that when we understand ourselves, we'll understand why we were born and what we're meant to be doing here. So I did do a lot of philosophy as well.
Right. Yeah.
In the undergraduate degree. Yeah.
Okay.
Tolstoy and Socrates and all of those kind of things.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's interesting. When did you ever like bunk school and like go for movies with your friends? Like, do some of those things?
Not really.
No.
No, I was quite boring that way. Also, my parents did give us a lot of opportunity to do many things. I didn't feel the need to steal fun.
Sure.
I'm very, very lucky. We did family holidays, we traveled, we had opportunities to enjoy.
Right.
And, yeah. South Africa wasn't safe, so you wouldn't do such things. And once we got to Australia, like I said, it was already such a different world that.
Right. So what age were you when you did the move?
I think I was closer to 14, actually.
Okay.
13, 14. Yeah.
Okay. And how was your school and like college life in Australia after that?
I think school was adjusting to the new country. University was amazing. It was beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. I think by then I had adapted to being in Australia, used to, the environment, the language, the accent, the culture. And I would say that university was a real finding of myself, allowing that freedom that, all people do this when they get to university. University has a sense of freedom. School has this sense of structure and you're told what to do and you're contained in school. Whereas in university, you're making your own choices and you're managing your own time. And I think that I flourished in that. I think me being able to manage my own time and make my own choices was very, very conducive to my personality type and how motivated me in a very significant way. And so, yeah, study-wise, I think I really blossomed in university. Even personality-wise, I think it allowed me to expand and grow in confidence, in self-esteem, and yeah.
Yes, yeah. It's because we are given all that freedom. We can really find ourselves and we can understand who we are, what we like.
And I think by then we have a little bit more maturity also. I mean, all said and done in high school, just all the politics of high school can be so distracting, trying to be cool or trying to fit in or worried about how we look, and all those unnecessary things don't seem as important in university.
I agree. Yes.
Yeah. But I mean, it's part of the journey.
Yes, it's part of the journey. I agree. So after college, I think like you worked in the field of psychology. So what exactly made you leave that profession and join the mission, which your mission?
The first year of university, my degree in psychology, was also the first year that I discovered the Bhagavad Gita. I didn't grow up in a very traditional household, and so we didn't have I mean, we celebrated Diwali, but that was about it. There wasn't, a sense of culture and praying and all the rest of it. So I came across the teachings of Swami Chinmayananda in the form of the Bhagavad Gita as weekly classes in Melbourne itself. And so I started attending classes once a week for the Bhagavad Gita as well. And that was the same year that I had started university. So of course the university degree progressed very quickly, and the spiritual, I guess you can say, finding had also started at that very same time. And this knowledge was so profound. The Bhagavad Gita is so incredibly profound. And then when I had to start working and I had clients, and the clients would say things to me, and I was thinking how to help them, more often I would turn to what I learned in the Bhagavad Gita as opposed to what I had learned in my degree. I found what I learned in my degree wasn't really helping me help them. Whereas what I learned in the Bhagavad Gita was like way more useful, beneficial. And that helped me also reflect that in my finding of myself, the knowledge of the Gita was so much more profound than the knowledge of the undergrad. Not to make less of any kind of knowledge. I mean, everything has a place in it, but I just feel the depth that we get in the Gita and the scriptures, I have not seen anywhere else. And so very soon after I had started working, or maybe even before I quite finished my master's, I had already got the sense that, since I have experienced for myself that for me and for other people, this knowledge is so much more impactful, it's what I wanted to pursue. And so I had already made up my mind to join the ashram.
Okay. And do you think, would you say it was any of your family member that inspired you and kind of led you in this way, or?
No, I was the first in my family to go.
Okay.
Like I mentioned, the family wasn't very traditional or religious. There was a lot of history, and so there just wasn't anything in the house. So in fact, after I started going, my sister started, my brother started, mom and dad came. Now they're all in the ashram, but I was the first one to find Gurudev and the mission.
Oh, okay. So now all of your family members are also in it.
Mm.
Okay. Interesting. Mm.
Mm.
And how did you feel like inspired, to just leave your job and go? Like, was it overnight, or you kind of thought about it for some time?
No, it was overnight actually. There was an incident where Guruji was in Melbourne, and there was some conversation. I won't go into too many details, but something to the effect of somebody said, well, in your next life, you can do X, Y, Z. So me in my next life can do X, Y, Z. And I said, I don't want to be born again. And really that feeling of, how long are we going to do this life, death, and this? How many times are we going to take the same journey and make the same mistakes and end up with all these problems? And there was this real sense of like, done. I'm done. I don't want to be born again.
Right.
And if there's something so incredibly liberating that we can free ourselves from every single problem, why aren't I working for that? Like, why am I wasting time when I can get something that's the best of the best of the best? And I think that was in that moment of that realizing that everything else is a waste of time, I literally decided on the spot.
Oh, okay.
To join the ashram.
Oh,
And
wow.
this was the path I was going to walk.
Mm. Wow.
Mm.
Okay. So let's move on to the life management. So the Bhagavad Gita is all about like life management. And I feel that a lot of the youth nowadays, myself included, like we don't really read scriptures from the Bhagavad Gita anymore, and nor do we know much about it anymore. So, what do you feel about that, and how do you think, like the youth can also like follow this, this path of knowledge?
So, they may not be turning to the scriptures, but I find that most people do want to have something of inspiration. So, people will listen to more pop culture figures like Jay Shetty or Oprah Winfrey, or,
Yes.
and those people will be speaking a very diluted form of scriptures. I mean, it's all packaged and it's all marketed. And some people like Jay Shetty will give credit and say he has learnt it in a scripture. And, Wayne Dwyer, who has written so many books, he'll also give credit to he had a guru. But then everyone else that's out there who have learned this knowledge, they've also learned it from scriptures, whether it be the Christian scriptures or some kind of Judaism, or they have followed another motivational speaker, and that motivational speaker would have got it from somewhere, because all knowledge comes from that one truth.
Right.
There can't be two truths. There can only be that one profound truth. And that profound truth then gets spoken about in very many different ways. And so whichever podcast you're listening to, when you're listening to, training the mind and finding happiness, it will have its basis in some level of philosophy and truth. And sometimes they focus just more on body or immediate problem solving, like a relationship. You have problem in a relationship, then learn about communication skills. But actually, problem in a relationship, even what to communicate, we're communicating what's in our mind. So I can do a whole course on communication skills, but what I'm communicating is in my mind. And so I have to go deeper. I have to go to my mind and what I'm thinking. And that has to be correct before I even communicate it. And so what I'm trying to say is that all the knowledge that is available is different levels
Sure.
of that one profound truth. And people are going to it. When people Google on YouTube or, and it's amazing what we can find. You can Google how to control anger and there'll be so many articles.
Yes.
How to deal with jealousy and there'll be so many articles. And so people do want to know all this stuff. Even on Instagram, there's teenagers, influencers who will be talking about you have to love yourself, or they'll be talking about that sense of having confidence, or getting through a relationship, dealing with heartache. And these are things that all of us have an interest in, because every single day we're dealing with it. We're dealing with ourselves, we're dealing with other people, we're dealing with our success, our failures, our criticisms, our shortcomings. And so we want little snippets of knowledge. Sometimes we find it overwhelming to have to sit and really learn it, but we want it.
Sure.
And so today's youth are selling themselves short when they don't go to something that's deep. And that's why I try to help them see that once you get deep, you get all the other layers. But if you get the more beginner layers, you might not solve the problem. And so the Bhagavad Gita's depth is moksha itself, and that you can't get deeper. And it's always it's always from someone. It's not pick up the Gita and read it and you'll understand it. Anything that we truly start to enjoy is when we've seen somebody else enjoy it. And then we delve into that. So even something like, how they advertise food. You're walking through a shopping mall and you see somebody else licking ice cream and you think, oh, that looks nice. And then you go and buy the ice cream. So here too, in the spiritual journey, when we see that somebody has found peace, found confidence, found comfort, found happiness, then we inspire too. So it's not about reading as much as finding someone who you can relate to and learning from them.
Right. Okay.
And we're so blessed in this world of technology. There's just so much available.
Yeah, there is. Yes, I agree. So, can you also please tell us, like, what are the main teachings of Swami Chinmayananda and his vision?
So he has no teaching of his own. We teach the knowledge of Vedanta.
Okay.
Vedanta is the philosophy of Advaita. So Dvaita means two, Advaita means one. So no two, which means one. And so it's the understanding of the oneness of all life and how it's connected. But most importantly, it's the understanding that God and I are one. And so I right now believe myself to be the separate entity that is ignorant and imperfect. But as I delve deeper into the understanding of my truth, that divine essence in me is divinity itself. And so Advaita is the teaching of oneness. And Swami Chinmayananda, having studied in that tradition, continued that teaching.
Okay. And also, we know that you're an author for children's books and you're a storyteller. So, can you tell us a little bit about your books?
Sure. So it's actually, I teach the children's classes here in the ashram. So Chinmaya Mission does the adult classes, of course, but we do Bal Vihar for the children, where we teach them the Puranic stories, the bhajans, and some very, very basic philosophy knowledge that is age appropriate for them. And so a mom had come to the ashram one day. It was very, very early when I had just got posted to Hong Kong. And she wanted to buy some books. And then she said, can you give me some kids' books? And we did. At that point in time, we had a series called Tarangini. And she flipped through it and she kind of like just dismissed it. It wasn't, highly physically appealing. It was just a book with writing. And then she said, I don't like all our Hindu stories. They're very violent, and I did prefer not to teach my kids this. And I was horrified. I think it felt like a genuine ache in my heart that it was so easy to dismiss the stories given to us in our Puranas. And then I couldn't say anything at that point in time because a lot of them really are violent.
Yes.
And then I said that. I said, not all of them are violent and you don't have to dwell on the violence. And she said, well, I don't know how to do all that. And there was this, when she left, I thought to myself, I know how to tell the story so that the kids love it and that the knowledge stays alive. And that's the point of the Puranic stories, right? It's not entertainment. Each of them have such a beautiful message in them. And then I think I really couldn't sleep that night because all I could think about is how easy is it for a parent to just say, no, I'm not going to read my kids these stories, and why should we allow that to happen? And so I really felt this incredible need of, I'll tell the story, you just read it to your kid. But our kids should know these stories. And I then also realized that she dismissed the book because it was just black ink on white paper. Ashrams tend to be budget friendly, and so there was no graphics, there was no color, it's really a boring book. And then I thought, well, the kids in today's world, when they have so much, they have Disney and they have this and they have that, and everything is presented in such a visually appealing way. And so I thought, well, if I write the story, there's really no point unless it's done in that same beautiful, appealing way. And if my book is next to a Disney book, that it should look as attractive. Otherwise, they're not going to read the story.
Right.
And that really was my inspiration, that our parents need to be able to tell the story to our kids so that they can live on to their kids and their kids. And in whatever small way I can contribute to that, I wanted to. And so I took the Puranic stories and wrote that in a kid-friendly language of today's era. And I got sponsors and got the artwork done. And yeah, I think I'm about 22, 23 books later. They're doing well by His grace. His grace alone.
Yeah, they're wonderful. I've seen some. They are very wonderful.
Mm.
So, okay, we'd like to now change the topic a little bit. About about the world like we're living in. So we've got so many issues in the world nowadays. The world is facing all these big issues like COVID, etc. So how do you think we can handle these these issues in life with our ancient wisdom?
Can we zoom in on one issue?
Yes, of course. So what do you think, what would you say is the biggest issue? And how do you think we can approach it using our ancient wisdom?
Okay, I'll tell you what I think are a few of the issues, and then you choose which one you want me to talk to. So one of the issues we have is reducing attention span, thanks to modern technology and mainly our phones. We also have disconnectivity amongst human relationships, again, because of technology, but I think COVID aggravated that with all these lockdowns and people being separated. And so people have a sense of loneliness. And people have a sense of loneliness even before COVID. And it's been exasperated by COVID. Another issue is, I think, increasing sense of low self-esteem in general public, not just the younger generation, but even in fully grown adults, and a sense of lack of worth. And then there is definitely commitment phobia in not just in terms of romantic relationship, but in terms of anything, in terms to committing even to a spiritual path, or in their commitment to career prospects, and even in just social commitment sometimes. So yeah, there's a few things. So you can choose one.
I would probably choose low self-esteem.
Okay. So basically, self-esteem is our worth, how we view ourselves in terms of how worthy we are. And then we create these criteria of how we define our worth. And one of the criteria is definitely looks. Even though that's not true for everyone, it does feature to some extent for everyone. And for some people, it features quite a bit. And so let's just take that. Let's just take that, and then it applies to everywhere else as well. But who defined what beauty is? And then in today's world, what's defining what beauty is social media. And actually, it's the modeling companies. But if you see through the journey of history, what was depicted as beautiful was very, very different. So if you go back to, was it the 80s, 70s, when Marilyn Monroe was considered the most beautiful woman, she was a size 14 and considered to be extremely beautiful. And in fact, her curves were considered to be beautiful. And then now you fast forward to today's world and you have to be size 0.
Yeah.
Like, what size is size 0? 0 means nothing. Like, how can anyone be a size 0?
Yes.
Why did we decide this? Why was beautiful one thing at that time and beautiful one thing at this time? And which one's true? We allow it to be true, whereas it's not actually true. Right? 14 can still be beautiful today.
Of course, yes.
And so my self-worth, depending on a conditioned value, which is not true, means I end up with low self-esteem. But it's based on something that's not true. And so if I really want to know my worth, shouldn't I know what's true and base it on what's true? And so what is true is that absolutely everything's beautiful. Every single person and every single thing in nature. And so what's my worth? Well, if everything's beautiful, that has to be what I am too. I can't be the only thing on this planet that's not. And so finding the truth is what defines our worth. And so now self-esteem becomes something altogether different from me looking like everyone else and fitting in. Yeah. And that's what the scriptures does. It gives depth.
That's
Otherwise, self-esteem, when you see all these other talks, is like, love yourself. It doesn't matter what other people think. Oh, sure. It doesn't matter what other people think, but what are you thinking?
yes, very very true and beautifully put.
It's the scriptures that are beautiful, that help us to see it from a perspective.
Sure. So, Swamini, you were saying also with like just we were talking about the issues, and you mentioned that some of the issues have come post-COVID. So I want to get back on that topic. How do we deal with relationships that are strained or miscommunicated? Sometimes it's happened a little bit more, maybe even after COVID. Some people feel it has affected relationships a little bit more. How do you feel we can deal with that?
So all relationships is interesting because we desire the relationship. And then once we're in the relationship, then we desire something else. Either that the relationship go my way or that person change, and so it's usually desire that's governing every single part of the relationship. Even me having the relationship is desire. And then how I'm dealing with the relationship will be based on desire. And so then what is my desire? So often the desire is they should listen to me, they should agree with me. They should understand me, they should love me, they should accept me. All these things will be the desire. But underlying all those desires is the desire that I have a good relationship. And that one we tend to forget, in the sense that I get so focused on the desire of they should listen to me, they should agree with me. If I remember that the most important desire is I want this relationship and I want it to be a beautiful, harmonious relationship, then I'm not as fixated on the desire of they should listen to me, they should admire me, they should respect me, they should, all those other desires that then come in, that cover up that desire to get along and to make it a harmonious relationship. And I think the one that really gets in the way of having harmonious relationships is this desire of I'm right, and you should acknowledge that I'm right. So you said one thing, I said one thing, but I'm right. And now the desire is you should know that I'm right. But actually the desire is we should get along. And so there's this wonderful saying that I have picked up along the way. I don't know who said it originally, but it's, do you want to be right or do you want to be happy? And it really comes down to which one do you want more? And we all say we want to be happy, but in that relationship at that point in time, we get stuck on being right. Mhm. So I think we can pause there, unless you
Okay.
want.
No, that's good. That's good. So, also, I want to ask you another question. So, you not only adults, but you impress so many children and teenagers. So, can you tell us something about children's psychology? Maybe even give us a few tips on like how to raise our children well, parents like myself.
There's so many different schools of teaching when it comes to parenting, right? There's this sense of I feel a certain amount of structure and discipline is good, even though I know many schools of parenting are more free flowing. But the sense of striking that balance between creating a certain amount of structure and also catering to that kid. So there's two things. There's the kid will have a personality, and we need to be able to understand that personality and work with that personality. But also, the parent has a personality. And so the parent will also have a certain way of doing things which are going to be better in terms of suiting their personality. Sometimes if the parent themselves is not too disciplined, then to make a disciplined routine for the kid is not going to work, even though the kid's personality really, really requires it. So the balance has to come from the personality of the mom or dad with the personality of the kid. And there's a real need for the parent to be aware of the limitations of their personality and the limitations of the kid's personality. Because if as a parent, I can't discipline and there's two parents, let the other one do it, right? If as a parent, I'm not very structured and the kid needs structure, let the other parent do it. Not that my way and then this is, but what's the kid's need, right? What's the personality of the kid's need that we have to cater to? And as a parent, my personality may, in some aspects, work really well, in some aspects, not work really well. And when I understand the aspects of my own personality that are not working so well, I'm able to get someone else to supplement. And sometimes as a parent, we feel, no, I should do everything. It's my kid, I should be able to do everything. But it takes a village to raise a kid. It really does take a village to raise a kid. And even on our health journey, we're constantly needing supplements, right? Like the food doesn't have enough, and then, we need some vitamin supplement or we need something. And so in terms of anything in life, the whole world is created in one sense of one family and one image. And I'm just one part of that. So what I don't have, I can reach out to somebody else to help. And I think that's also a huge part of the parenting journey, that let others help. Let grandparents help. Let uncles and aunts help. Let teachers help. Because no one person is going to have all things that another person needs.
Sure.
Yeah.
Thank you. So we'd like to talk a little bit about your podcast. Can you tell us a little bit more about your podcast that you have? It's called Thinking About It, right?
Correct. Yes, Thinking About It. Well, the podcast was started a good 10 years ago, I think. When another lady had suggested it's something I do. And I have always tried to fill a need where if something's not provided, to provide for that. So like I said with the kids' books, it was, even though there's many kids' books, this was the knowledge or the symbolism had to be added in because that wasn't there. The presentation had to be more Disney-like because that wasn't there. So in the podcast, I had noticed that there are lots of spiritual wisdom available. I mean, pretty much every ashram has, slowly progressed to the digital world, necessarily so. But there was a lack of bite-sized pieces. So not everyone is ready to commit to listen to a 1-hour talk, especially in Chinmaya Mission. That's what we do. We usually do a 1-hour talk on the verses of the Gita. And so it wasn't my idea. It was suggested to me that you do 10 minutes. So people will listen 10 minutes where they're less likely to listen an hour, especially when they're new to this knowledge. And so I thought that was a great idea, and I took that on, and I took Bhajagovindam, Upadesar, I think Atma Bodh. These are textbooks in the scriptural world, and each talk was only 10 minutes. So bite. It's not a huge commitment to sit down for 10 minutes. It's something that you're willing to do on a commute from work to home, or just at the end of the day while you're cleaning up your room or something. It was something that was doable. And that's how the podcast started, with these 10-minute bite-sized snippets. And took me a while to get the hang of speaking into a mic and not to people. So I think some of them are better than others. I've had good days and bad days. But over the years, I've recently started my YouTube channel, and before that there was only people were constantly asking about the Bhagavad Gita talks. So even though majority of the podcast is 10-minute bite size, I think 2 years ago we started putting up my talks on the Bhagavad Gita as well, which is the 1-hour talks on the Gita.
Okay.
That's how podcast started, and yeah.
Looking forward to hearing it.
Yeah, I think when I started in terms of the mission, there weren't that many, but of course now, like I said, most organizations have already upgraded into the digital world.
Yes, it's true.
Yeah.
So, also, Swamini, I think, is it true that the main emphasis, how you teach is a lot with chanting and prayers? And, what according to you, is the highest ultimate truth, you would say?
So we chant the verses of the Gita and then we speak on them. But no, in the class, I think the chanting is minuscule.
Okay.
But during festivals, there's a lot of chanting. And we have separate chanting classes.
Okay.
The mission, Chinmaya Mission, really focuses on the knowledge bit, the understanding bit. There is the chanting because the scriptures are written in Sanskrit verses. And so we learn to chant the scriptures. But like I said, it would be about 10 minutes in the 1-hour class is chanting, and the rest is the knowledge. And then what would I say is the most important point of spirituality? Sorry,
Yes.
What was your question?
Yeah. So what would you say is the highest ultimate truth, like you would say?
Moksha,
Mm.
which is what the scriptures say, not me.
Okay.
The highest truth is we are divine, and everything that we experience right now is undivine, is not real, including ourselves. The fact that we are divine is the highest truth.
Okay. Understood. And I want to say, Swamini, when I first came to Hong Kong and I first met you, I was so drawn to like your energy, and you just radiate positivity wherever you go. So how do you like remain so patient, calm, and grounded all the time? Like, you're so positive all the time. So how do you remain like that?
Because we in the mission, we constantly having to teach the scriptures. I'm constantly reminded by the scriptures of living values and virtues, of the beauty of them and the importance of them. So even just this morning in Viveka Chudamani, it was the control of speech and the purity of speech was the class. And so as I have to teach other people about speaking sweetly, it reminds me to speak sweetly. As I tell other people about how, avoiding gossip or negative words or complaining, it reminds me to do the same. And, we can forget all too easily.
Yes.
And we can spend so much time creating a good habit and so quickly lose that good habit. And so to be constantly teaching this knowledge is constantly reminding myself once again to start that good habit or to continue practicing that good habit. And because I'm teaching it, I'm explaining the benefits of it. And then that's reiterating it to myself, the need for me to be able to do it. And so I'm incredibly grateful that I have this privilege of speaking on the scriptures, which is my own anchor to stay true to what is important.
Thank you. And what would be one teaching which you would like, the audience to always remember?
So Gurudev Swami Chinmayanandaji, when he would sign a picture, this one's not signed, but very often when he would sign a picture, he would say, keep smiling. And very often when people think about spirituality, they think about sitting cross-legged, eyes closed in meditation. But he would say, to be cheerful is a very important spiritual quality. And that's why he would sign on his pictures, keep smiling. And I think that really struck a chord with me, that to be cheerful is actually a spiritual practice. And it's, to be consciously aware and deliberately, consistently put in effort to be cheerful. It's a practice. Just like with yoga, we consciously aware of our posture and
Sure.
trying to sit up straight, to consciously be aware, to smile, and to look for things to be happy about, and to be able to spread that happiness is a spiritual practice.
Okay, understood, yes. To be cheerful. Okay, so thank you so much, Swamini ji, for enlightening us on your words of wisdom and how these teachings relate to our daily lives. So every day when we wake up, we strive to be a better person and try to implement teachings like how you have given us today. And yes, and we look up to gurus like yourself for guidance when we feel confused and lost. So thank you so much for being the light for us. And thank you so much for your time you have spent with us tonight.
No, it's an honor and privilege. I'm glad to have had the opportunity to share.
And I would like to share, stay connected and follow us on Facebook and Instagram for more updates. And this video is also going to be up on the LMYC YouTube channel and Facebook page for all your loved ones to watch. And stay tuned to this platform for our next inspiring yogi, which will be announced soon. And thank you once again for being with us. Thank you so much on behalf of LMYC, CHK, and the audience, and sincere gratitude once again.
Thank you also.
Namaste.
Namaste. Namaste.